Takes forever to load. And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Connected for Real podcast. I am Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman. And with me today is Julie, and I'm super excited. Julie, please introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are, and then we'll get into it.
I am Julie Rothschild Levi. I am a comedic actress and writer. I am originally from Minnesota, and I've been living in Israel for the past 12 years. And I just like to laugh at life situations, and I create those types of situations and reels and comic videos on social media. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and on Facebook.
Yes, that's how I found you. I find it so fun to just take a break and watch you doing funny things. So that's really fun. Okay, so I'm a marriage coach, and what I am obsessed with and fascinated by is how everything in our lives affects our marriage and how our marriage affects everything else. So I want to talk a little bit today about how humor affects marriage, and if you could give us a little bit into that and some examples.
Well, first of all, I think the concept of marriage is pretty funny to begin with. You know, I mean, we head into a lifelong relationship, or hopefully it is, and build a family with somebody who we continuously get to know over the years, and we change obviously as much as they change. And I think that marriage, I think, is a challenge as much as it is wonderful. I think laughter and humor such a role, because what are laughter and humor? They're light. They're bringing light to the world, bringing light to our relationships and any type of situation we deal with, really. I mean, I think it's a coping tool.
Right.
So I really believe that humor is an important part of marriage.
Yes. And I think of humor as a connector as well, because, my husband says an attractive man is a man who can make a woman laugh. You know, it creates a relationship like right away. If a guy can make you laugh on a date, or, when you're just out with your friends, you feel connected.
Very much so. I mean, I think laughter is one of the main connectors, and I think it's very intimate. I think when we can make each other laugh, we're creating a bond. First of all, it's a release, right? We get the endorphins going, and it's a way to share something with somebody that you're only sharing with them. Like if you laugh at the same joke, it's bonding. So I think laughter and humor are very much important in marriage, because life can be very heavy. And we need to take that heaviness and somehow shine some light into it. So that's the way to do it. And also, you said that a husband making his wife laugh. Well, you can go the other way too. I actually love it when I'm able to make my husband laugh, and anybody else in my life. To me, it's just, it's a wonderful feeling. I think it's a gift to give to somebody.
Yes, for sure. For sure. I love that. And we have one of our daughters is very funny. She has such a sense of humor, and it adds so much to the conversation when someone says like the thing you didn't expect but makes everyone like double take. It is so great because it takes you out of your own head. What is weight really? Like, what happens when you're feeling so weighed down is you're so enveloped in the story that you're telling yourself, and you're sitting up here in your head, being inside yourself, not really seeing what everybody else is seeing, or not really able to see the peripheral vision of life. And
Right.
someone comes in and sort of pops that bubble and brings a little bit of, hey, you're not the only one here. Like, this is actually pretty funny. It gives you permission to laugh about it too. It lightens up the weight just by giving that new perspective.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So I find that I'll give you a little bit more information about myself. So for about 4 years, I was a medical clown. And a medical clown, if you're not so familiar with it, it is actually a trained clown. So we dress up with, you know, the colors, and my clown was a 4-year-old clown called Funny the Clown. And we're trained to go into like hospitals, nursing homes, battered women's shelters, places where there are people, probably in the more difficult places that you can find people. And we were trained to go in and to try to take them out of themselves and their difficulties for even a few minutes by using humor and laughter. So it was a challenge, but one of the things that I saw in being a medical clown was how, even if somebody is in pain, right, and you have to have the skills to know when to like back off and not to take it personally if they're not in the mood. And I think that's very important in marriage. You have to gauge, right? We have to sort of feel and see maybe the joke isn't appropriate right now.
Right.
But the power of even those few minutes of taking somebody out of their pain, whether it's emotional or physical, is so powerful. And so I learned so much about how it doesn't even take much to bring a smile to somebody's face. It doesn't have to be this whole stand-up act, right? And I also find, I said, like, humor is a real coping tool. So I'll find in marriage that even with the kids, you know, sometimes laughing, it's not so much making fun of the kid, but like if there's a quality in a kid who, you know, let's say he's kind of, you know, he's a teen, right? So his room is a mess, and you know, he's scatterbrained and all this stuff. So it can be very frustrating. Let's say the same thing can be in marriage.
Yeah.
The common gripe is that the husband leaves his socks on the floor and, you know, doesn't put the toilet seat down, like that sort of thing. But if we can bring some humor to it, make light, first of all, then I think it makes our relationship with the person better, because it brings out the human in them, because we're not perfect, right? None of us are perfect. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that here is, you brought something really important, the difference between, you know, how to keep the balance with humor, because there are times and there's also things that are, you know, beyond the red lines where it's like, no, that's not funny anymore. And people have to have that really clear, because like you said, making fun of someone or making them the center of the joke is not going to get the same effect. And also timing, you know, when is an appropriate time and when is not an appropriate time. Can you talk a little bit more about that? How do you gauge your balancing act in humor?
Yeah, so humor, again, like you said, when I think about stand-up comedy, a lot of times it's, you know, you're sort of poking fun at regular situations in life. And it can be a fine balance between offending people, right? And but it's cathartic, right? To be able to laugh about our human flaws is really cathartic. As far as timing and balance, somebody actually asked me once, how can you be funny? Like, how does that happen? Is that just something that you know is within you? Is it something you can develop? And I think for me, it's just a sense. It's just a sense to know, and to know when maybe to break the tension, and to know when, yeah, you have to see who you're with. If it's one-on-one, like in a marriage, and it's with your husband, and you know his, you know, maybe his red lines or what will trigger him, probably not in a funny way, then you have to be aware of it. So you have to be sensitive. But I don't think there's any magic formula. I think everybody in their own relationships needs to gauge
Yeah.
that.
You know, it reminds me of, I have a method called the calm method, and step one is connect to yourself. And it's really important to get into that space before you do anything else. Like, just where am I? What am I laughing at? Like, where am I coming from? You know, am I poking fun because I want to get back at, or am I making fun just because I need to lighten up the mood? Is
Mhm.
it something, like you said, a protective mechanism because I'm running away from dealing with something? Where is it coming from within me? And that way I can address it. I can adjust myself to really know how to do it right.
Right.
Yep. I like
Yeah.
that you said it's so unique because there is no one size fits all, and there's never any rules about life that fit all criteria in all situations.
Right. So as much as we're talking about humor in marriage, one of the things that I do in my comedy, and I'm an American who lives in Israel. I've chosen to lead a religious life. I have a large family. So all of these things, I have to find the humor in them. And there's so much material, right? So if somebody can find what, you know, again, things that are challenging for them, things that are even difficult, and things that annoy. Israel is a much more, for example, aggressive culture than the one that I grew up in. So I have to laugh. I have to laugh at things that just don't jive with how I grew up culturally. So yeah, it was it's been it's and I think those skills of being able to laugh at what can even irritate you and drive you crazy is for sure something you can bring in your marriage. Like I said, the toilet seats left off up, toothpaste cap. Um, Things can bug us endlessly, and I
Yeah.
feel like even if you bring it up with somebody, let's say you bring it up with your husband, like again, we'll bring back, let's say, the toothpaste cap. Okay, I feel like we don't want to talk down, like treat our husbands like kids, right?
Right.
But there's a way you can do it in like a lighthearted way. Yeah. The I don't know, the toothpaste cap is quite lonely. It needs to come back to the mothership. Yeah. I don't know. That's just like one thing off the top of my head. Again, there's a way to communicate something, but like a little more lighthearted.
Right. How did you get into what you're doing now? How did you get into doing all these TikToks and Instagram and, you know, the different dress up things that you have? Like it's fun to see your actual things, but also the behind the scenes. How did you get into that?
I'm not sure. It just happened. No, I've always loved performing, but there was a time in my life for about 20 years I didn't do it. I was very busy with all the life changes that I had mentioned before. And then on Facebook, there was a group that I was in, and there was an impersonation challenge. So then I would dress up as different like pop stars, like Madonna or Prince, a 70s rocker, different personas, and then do a song like them. And I found this real connection. I found this side of me that I didn't really know was there. That was so much fun. That got really good reception. I was very hesitant to go beyond that, let's say Instagram. But I took the leap, and there I was able to really, once Reels came out, then I was able to develop different characters, bring them back. And I just saw that there was a need for it, not only like from within myself to have a platform to create. And I think Corona really brought me to that. Like, we're all shut in our houses. I can't get on stage. So that was really an in for me. And I've had such a great time with it. It's a great
Yeah,
way that I've connected with other creators, with people like you, right? It's been
that's
a
what I was gonna
blessing.
say. It's fun to watch because you could tell you're having fun. Like some people, it just, it just seems like they're working. And here you look like you're just, this is my fun, this is my play, this is, and it we could tell.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a blessing to be able to do something that you love so much, and even make it a profession, which is what I've been doing. and I'm
That's
writing
really cool.
like a show, one woman show, which I hope to get out there. So
Ooh.
it's amazing. It's amazing to be at this stage in my life where I can do that. It's a real blessing. And like I said, there is nothing to me that brings me greater joy really than to be able to bring a smile or a laugh to somebody. And when I get that feedback, it's like I'm on a high. I'm on a high.
Yeah, we could tell, it's fun. I'm on a high when I can give feedback. So here we go. We're doing great. What is it that you like? How can people give you money? Like, how can they interact with you in order to get more of this?
Okay, so whatever I put, my content is free. Um, I don't have subscribers or anything. I do some what's called paid collabs with businesses, with companies, nonprofits, if they want to take their whatever they are offering to the public and give it a lighter note. So I'm available for that. That's mainly right now how I do
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, I saw one collab that touches marriage, and it was the mikvah one.
yeah,
And it was really funny because here in our house, we discuss it openly because I have 4 girls. So I want them to feel like it's not something to hide or whatever. But,
hmm
I also grew up where it's like, you don't talk about it, it's a secret. So it's something that's really also fun to balance and see.
yeah. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. I have mostly boys, so I have one daughter and all boys, so that's it. It's a kind of a different thing. Actually, they're a little bit more clueless, I think, about everything in general.
Yeah. So it seems that I'm always attracted to the people with the boys. And when my kids were little, it was like, what are we going to do? The kids don't want to play together, you know? I had a friend with 4 boys when I had 4 girls, since already I had, 2 boys and another girl. But it was 4 boys, 4 girls. And it was really easy because they would just share the crayons. Like, I'll give you the pinks if you give me the blues, you know?
Yeah,
And everybody won. It was a great collaboration. And then we just broke off, right? Her kids went to the boys' school, my kids went to the girls' school, and we laughed it off. And we're like, we'll see each other again when our kids are old enough to start making shidduchim, and then
that's right.
we'll have people to look out for. So it's very funny. But yeah, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah, definitely. I have a question for you.
Go
Can I turn the
ahead.
tables?
Oh yeah.
So,
I have
as
no reason.
as as a coach and somebody who works specifically with marriage, what would you say? So you've been asking me, but what would you say in your own practice you've seen really can work with couples in terms of bringing that lightness? What's been your
Okay, so
experience?
first thing is that I only work with the women. I don't
Hmm
believe that the husband has to come into anything. The way that women get their answers is from without. They go and they get advice, and we go to like parenting classes, and we go to mentors, and we go and ask, and then we take it in and we process it and make it our own, right? And that's like the receiver part of us. The husband's the exact opposite. He needs to go into his cave. He needs to shut down. He needs to find the answers from within. And then he comes out when he's ready, and he has to take credit for his answer, even though it was something he heard like you speak about a million times. So there's something you could laugh at, right? But when you take a husband by the ear and you say, come over here, we need help, what's happening inside his automatic is, I'm being taken to the principal's office. I did something wrong. There's something wrong with me. They're both against me, so I need to be defensive. And we end up creating more of an issue than we do by just, taking him off the hook. It's like, you know what? I realize it's nothing about you. It's my inner work that I need to do. So like, you go do your thing.
hmm
I know you love me, and I will go and figure myself out. What that does is magic, because then you get to invest in yourself and grow your business and grow yourself and figure out what makes you come alive and all these wonderful things about life that we get to do because this is what it's all about. And we learn to receive, we learn to allow his love in without filtering it and making it have to be a certain way. We learn a lot of skills that, is what I focus on, the receiving, the allowing, the, accepting that he's not going to change the way you want him to change. But when you finally start receiving, right? Like we were talking about jokes before, if you laugh at a joke, he'll know, oh, it was received. Oh, a well-received joke brings with it another joke, right? It gives you the permission to try again, to give more, to allow. When you don't laugh at the joke because it's just not funny anymore after 35 years, right? Like the joke is just not funny. So he stops, right? So he gives love and the love isn't received. It's not like, wah, wah, wah. It's worse than that. It's a rejection. It's shut down and don't do that again. So he's like, well, that's the way I know how to give love. So I guess I'm shutting down my love and, mechanisms, and I'm just going to stop trying. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do different. The way you allow it to be different is by focusing on the things you do want and allowing the things, laughing at the jokes you like, right? So if you focus on, oh, that was funny, oh my gosh, more of that, then you're training him to focus on the things that actually are getting the laughs, right? Same thing with marriage. So that's where I focus a lot on. My other very, very big focus is on God and bringing God into the situation, because God is at the core of everything we do. And I'm very God-centered. So a lot of times when a woman will come with a real big story about you don't even know what he did, what he said, blah, 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 and like, and there's so much drama in it and so much stress and so much of that tangible blah, then I ask her like, oh, so, what about God? Where is he in all this? And it brings a smile to their face because, oh, again, like, remember, we're talking like you're so in your head, you don't let anything else in. Allowing that into the story a lot of times brings light to, oh, it's not actually him. It's the way God wanted it to be, right? It's like, it's not his fault that there was a power outage, or it's not his fault that we didn't make the bus. I could blame it on him. I can use him as my very convenient excuse, but I don't necessarily get that much out of that when I use excuses and when I blame. So we turn the tables a little bit, and I use humor and laughter a lot in my coaching because the coaching is so deep and so powerful. A lot of times you need to, like, shake it off, just bring something funny, bring a smile to your face, allow it to feel a little lighter. I'm also really positive as a, in my core. We were just talking about blood types, and there was a bunch of my husband's students here for Shabbos, and they said, oh, I don't know what my blood type is. One of the guys says, guess what my blood type is? And he's just looking at me like, be positive. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, you don't get it. Be positive. I'm like, that is my blood type. Okay. So
that's actually my blood type too.
There you
That's
go.
the first time I really thought about it like that. Wow. Be positive.
Yes.
Amazing.
And when you realize, you're like, oh, it's what I'm all about, is being positive. So I was once in a coaching program where they kept going down and like, go into the darkness, go into the depth of, like, the heavy stuff. And I'm like, no, you're not going to get that in my world. We're going to allow the darkness up, into the light, but we're not going anywhere that is painful or hurts too much, or is like, the like, all that negativity is not my vibe. So I like to keep it light and manageable. And I also like to go really deep. So I have to always be balancing those two together because I'm so positive that it's really important to face your stuff. You know, being positive doesn't mean like pushing it away and just being like, I'm only doing positive now, right? Sometimes we need to listen to what's happening. We need to go down, we need to go deep. There are a lot of things that hurt. And, you know, women will cry at sessions with me. Like it comes up, it comes out, but it's part of the cleansing process. And it always ends with a laughter. It always ends with, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's what I was crying about, you know? And it blows me away every time when they laugh at the end at how they started. Like, I can't believe it. I can't believe I was crying. But thank God, that's what it's all about, right? That's where I want it to be. So that's where I bring laughter and humor into my world. And I'm surrounded by funny people. So it makes my life, you know, it's so funny. It's so fun. Like we went to a circus when my 3 kids were young and with my parents. And my husband said, my mother said, "Oh, I'm so scared that they're going to eat him." And my husband's like, "Oh, if if this one would say something, it would be like, "Ooh, I hope they don't eat him." If the second one said, "Oh, I hope they do," and the third one would say, "Ooh, can I go and do it?" You know, like each one of them had such a strong personality that like he's able to use their personalities and a little bit of what's happening within our life as a family to bring it out. So it's really fun. It's fun to watch it and experience.
And that's a great example of a potentially stressful or frightening situation for a child, right? At the circus, all these animals,
Right.
you know, the lions, that kind of thing. So when you use humor, it's amazing how you just shift. You can almost feel it physiologically. Actually, you know, there's so many scientific studies about the health benefits of laughter. And what amazes me that I learned as a medical clown is that, let's say there is a medical clown involved in somebody's treatment, and some hospitals, at least here in Israel, and I think in some hospitals in the States, but in Israel, it's very common to have medical clowns on staff. And before someone goes into surgery, if a medical clown is with them, and when they come out, they actually need less anesthesia and less painkillers. So it just shows you the power that humor, even it's a sort of like, it gives you a sense of safety, I think. You know, we almost don't realize how much tension we have, it's so much easier for the brain to go into negativity sometimes, I think, than positivity.
Well, I'll tell you why, by the way. I use the refrigerator as an example. When you leave the door open to your refrigerator, after a minute, it starts going beep, 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 right? It wants you to know that something is wrong. Can you imagine if every time everything was okay, your refrigerator would be like, beep, everything's fine, beep, everything's okay, doors closed, don't worry about it, everything's good. You'd go crazy. Same with your brain. If everything was fine and your brain had to constantly be looking for these things, it would be exhausting. So your brain is programmed to find when the things are wrong, to find when the door is left open, when this is not going the way it's supposed to be, right? And that's how the brain is programmed. Doesn't mean that's how you have to leave it programmed. And we program ourselves all the time with gratitude, journaling and challenges of looking for the positive and changing your perspective. All those things are our job to make our lives better. But there's a reason why your brain was programmed that way.
It's interesting. I never thought of that. Yeah, actually, every time the refrigerator beeper goes off, I always sing Jingle Bells. It's like it's got the exact same tune. So go figure there.
Yeah. And you know what? I also think that God created humor on purpose. Like he could have made our lives black and white. He didn't have to create color, right? He didn't have to make things taste good. He didn't have to make things smell good. Like all these things are created for us to enjoy, right? And it's just enjoyment. Like God did not have to. Nobody made him. And one of the things that he created for our enjoyment is laughter and is humor, and you said marriage in itself is a funny thing. It is, the opposite attracting is hysterical. Sometimes you sit there going, what was he thinking?
Right.
Of course, now I appreciate being with someone who's the opposite, because I grew so much as a person from being able to see the other side and,
Right.
be pulled towards the center. But you have to do a lot of inner work in order to see that as a, positive thing. Most of the time it's great content for, people like you who make fun of it.
Yeah, it definitely gives great. I actually don't. That's not really the focus of my comedy so much. I bring light more to, I think, just everyday situations. I'll do like some kids stuff, like the mother to the kids. But I haven't really touched on marriage at this point. Food for thought. Watch
Well,
out.
everybody listening should just know it was my fault that she started doing marriage.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, there's great stuff out there that we can laugh off, and we can, lighten up, and we can always bring it back to God and say, it's supposed to be funny. It's not supposed to be heavy. It's not supposed to be painful. It's here to make us grow and to let us enjoy the journey.
Yeah. I'm with you, sister. I
Oh my
totally
gosh, this
agree.
was so fun. Where can people find you? How can people get in touch with you?
Okay, so my handle on Instagram, TikTok is officially Julie_comedy. So you can find me there. You can check out my stuff. And I do my reels in English, even though I live in Israel. I do some humor, but everything's, if I do something in Hebrew, it'll have the transliteration or the translation into English. So no worries. But you can find me there in the meantime until other bigger, more exciting things and outside of social media come up.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for being here. As you all know, you can find me at ConnectedForReal.com. And I am so happy that we got to speak. And I thank God for this opportunity. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. And I feel like I'm heading into my day lighter.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to go trip on the socks on the way out of here, but that's okay. I can handle it.
You can. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you next time. Thank you, Julie.